Anytime you visit the DMZ subreddit, you inevitably get two types of conversation. Number one is people who PvP in DMZ are just Warzone rejects, and number two is you're just bad at PvP and only want PvE in a PvP game. Both of these takes are really bad. Today we're gonna ruffle some feathers because I am someone who plays DMZ quite often for the PvP experience. I think the PvP experience is a top tier PvP experience and honestly is probably one of the more unique experiences when it comes to PvP. And yet, admitting this gets me completely crucified as if I took the entire DMZ PvE community's collective dog and kicked it.
Nice try, puppy! That was a close one.
I promise that's not what I'm doing. I'm going to explain a couple of things when it comes to why I prefer DMZ over Warzone, why I don't want to play multiplayer either. I honestly feel like this shouldn't have to be stated, but hey, it gives me free content to make and content that I'm interested in making, so why not? Let's get going. Now, Warzone is a typical battle royale, putting up to 150 players of varying team sizes, 1 to 4 per team, against each other, with each team or player vying for position against opposing teams and players on a shrinking map. The loot and weapons are randomized, and if you kill other players, you get to take all of their loot, and the last player in team alive wins. Now, Warzone specifically has a few caveats that separate itself from other BRs, like if you die, you have one more chance to come back through the gulag. There are contracts you can gather on the map that provide you with money you can spend at buy stations. At these buy stations, you can then spend money, which provide you with essential items such as armor plates, kill streaks, self-revives, and even buying teammates back. You also have strongholds you can invade that fill a building with plated AI, and after clearing the stronghold, you can loot the orange chests, which generally have really good loot. You make tons of money from it, and you can also buy your loadout weapons from the stronghold buy station. Now, DMZ is an extraction shooter. All players or teams, which generally have 1 to 3 players, are thrown into the DMZ and have a limited window, generally 20 to 30 minutes depending on the map, to scavenge supplies, complete faction missions, and all while surviving the onslaught of AI bosses, and the threat of players, before extracting on a helicopter before the radiation begins to close. This radiation acts like a battle royale circle, except instead of closing in on a circle, the circle expands until it engulfs the entire map, killing everyone who hasn't extracted yet. Now, once extracted, you can actually unload all of your new and pretty weapons into the weapon stash and change your operator to build up your gear stash, such as backpacks, 3 plates, and kill streaks. And the thing is, you have plenty more to do in DMZ, both in a match and outside of a match. You can build up your exfil streak, which gives you up to 10 perks by doing in-game contracts. You have a briefcase you can fight with the rest of the map that, when extracted, give you out-of-game rewards such as weapon skins, keychains, and banners. You can unlock plenty of out-of-game systems and make them more valuable, like the wallet and wallet size, to hold cash you can then bring into the next game to buy items at a buy station, your contraband stash to hold more weapons, and number of insurance weapons, which you generally get up to 3, and cost of items at the buy station through mission upgrades. In order to unlock mission upgrades, you have to raise your rep level with factions through faction missions. Each mission gives a certain amount of rep required to hit the next level, and unlocking the next level of a faction gives you more and increasingly harder missions to complete in order to get to the next level. At this point, it really should be apparent as to why people may prefer DMZ over Warzone, even if they prefer PvP over PvE. DMZ as a whole has so many X factors you have to take into account every single game that change the dynamic of both PvP and PvE on the map dramatically. What's your goal for that match? What loadout are you bringing in? And how many are you spawning in with? All of these have a heavy influence on what you're going to experience in the next game. Whether you're just looking for some fun moments in PvP against other teams, or you're desperately needing to farm that last GPU to get your 3rd insurance slot. The type of game you play in every DMZ match is vastly different from the last and controls every fight you engage with. If you're just looking for PvP, you may fight the sniper that's trying to hit you on top of the city buildings, whereas if you need that GPU for your insurance slot, you may just serpentine until you reach exfil with your heart racing. But an even bigger factor than anything I just said is other players. Other players on the map dictate more than anything else, I believe, what you're going to experience. Every single squad and player that loads into Al-Mazr in DMZ has to answer all 3 of the questions above as well. And because of that, your experience changes entirely. Every single game and every single engagement you encounter. Every situation in DMZ is unique, and that's what makes DMZ special. Because when you hop on Warzone, you know the experience that you're gonna get. You could take anyone from any other BR and have them explain Warzone, and it's gonna be pretty much accurate. You're gonna drop in, you're gonna grab your loot, you're gonna kill all the other players, and you're gonna win by staying in the middle of the circle, right? Whereas DMZ, there are so many stories and so many ways that you can play, and because of everyone else on the map playing differently as well, you have a completely dynamic experience. And this is why I personally enjoy DMZ over Warzone. And I think a lot of people feel this way. And I really don't think that each and every match is this PvP deathmatch that everyone seems to make it out to be. I think a lot of times you're going to engage in PvP, and a lot of times you're going to get bested. That's just how the game works. But I think a lot of the X factors end up naturally pushing everyone towards PvP, because at the end of the day, it's a PvPvE experience. It's not a PvE experience, and it's not a PvP experience. It is both mushed together into a single map, but with a lot of different personalities, a lot of different goals, and a lot of different loadouts, and a lot of different skill levels. But at the end of the day, those are my own overall feelings for why DMZ, I think, is better than Warzone in every single aspect, even if you're someone who focuses more on PvP than PvE. So I hope you got a little bit of insight from a self-proclaimed Warzone reject. And maybe this video helps you understand that until they create an experience that is very similar to DMZ in the PvP department, that nothing's really going to fill that itch, just like there's nothing in the PvE space that fills that itch like DMZ. Because both only PvP and PvE have their chance to do only those things through raids and campaign for PvE and through Warzone and multiplayer in PvP. But there's something about DMZ that keeps us all coming, and I think it's the fact that those things are mashed together and it just make the experience completely unique every time you go into the game. I think that we'd be lying to ourselves if we didn't admit that. There is something on both sides of the fence that keep us coming for more, or else we'd play the modes that only have one side. So if you did like this video, if you like the way I do things, if you want to have a conversation, please comment down below and tell me why you prefer Warzone over DMZ, or DMZ over Warzone, or even raids over Warzone and DMZ. Tell me why I'm wrong in some of these comments. I'd love to have a conversation, an actual conversation with people. But otherwise, like the video, subscribe, and as always, I will see you in the next one.